can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, Boruto episode 230 review. This episode was actually really good. Now coming to this arc, honestly, I didn't really have that much expectations, but the last episode, Boruto episode 229 plus Boruto episode 230, it completely changed my perception of just anime only arcs in general. This one right here is actually good. Now in my personal opinion, I don't necessarily think that this arc is going to get that much hype mail because of course it doesn't necessarily have that much manga content, but of course a very big storyline did happen in this arc, and was the fact that Kawaki actually became a Genin. Now the process isn't 100% official. I think it's probably going to become official in the next coming episodes, but Kawaki actually passed his test to become an actual Shinobi. This right here is absolutely huge, and in fact in the Boruto manga they're still kind of going through that process as of right now, which kind of leads us to think that maybe they make some changes to when the manga actually gets adapted into the Boruto anime, specifically that part of when of course Kawaki does become a Shinobi. This right here was a very good lesson for Kawaki. The first thing that I definitely do want to point out is of course Kawaki is a big dog. We knew this from the rip, but over the past couple of episodes it has been looking like Kawaki isn't the strongest. But this episode right here, in my personal opinion, kind of reined everybody in and kind of showed people that Kawaki, even though he doesn't have the karma seal, he is still no slouch. Coming into this episode, because of the great character development of the enemies in the last episode, we kind of understood that this new guy was going to be a very formidable opponent with the jutsu that we've never really seen before in the Boruto anime. So of course Kawaki absolutely destroying him definitely gave him a lot more respect from the Boruto writers that he did not have without the karma seal prior. Now I definitely do want to talk about the action scene at first, because let's be honest, that right there is the most entertaining part about this episode, even though it's a little bit debatable mainly because we did see Naruto and Kawaki have a moment at the end of the episode. But specifically with the action scene, it started off absolutely impeccable. Kawaki pulls up to the ninja and then he uses some sort of jutsu to actually create a big fog, which kind of reminded me of the land hidden in the mist. Now this actual fog jutsu was very unique to him. It was very unique to him mainly because he was actually able to actually create illusions from the fog, and actually Mazuku kind of thought it was probably a genjutsu and he tried to release the genjutsu. Now as far as I'm concerned, I don't think this right here was actually a genjutsu. The guy actually later explained it in detail and said it was illusions casted by the fog. This right here is also very important for power scaling reasons mainly because as of right now we're not completely sure if Otsutsuki members are immune to genjutsu. This right here has been like a huge debate that I've had with a fellow YouTuber, Mellow the Dreamer, but I've pretty much been on the standpoint that Otsutsuki members are immune to genjutsu, and of course if Kawaki was susceptible to genjutsu in this particular episode, because albeit Kawaki is 80% Otsutsuki, it would kind of be a little bit shaky in regards to the overall foundation of that argument. But it seems like it wasn't actually a genjutsu and it was just an illusion, but regardless Kawaki wasn't really affected by it either way. I mean, he's seen directly through that illusion and got straight to the point. This right here is a very underrated aspect about Kawaki. A lot of people like to see him as just the bronze. People don't necessarily like to see him as the actual brains behind things. Kawaki in this particular episode showed exactly how smart he was, a jutsu that he's never really seen before. We understand that Kawaki isn't necessarily familiar with shinobis, and Kawaki just completely decoded the abilities in 2.5 seconds, found where the original body is, attacked the original body, and of course used the fire style jutsu to not only disperse the fog but also attack the original body. This right here is just a very underrated aspect of Kawaki's game. He is extremely tactical in the way that he fights. Of course we understand it gets a little bit overshadowed by all of his overall power, and now he has the shadow clones, plus now he has the fire style jutsu that we didn't see. But again, we can't underrate how good he is tactically in battles. Now here's where I personally believe Naruto's influence hurt Kawaki. We seen Kawaki had this guy dead to rights. He was essentially done, and this right here might just be me, but two characters I know from the rip, from their actual introductions, would have actually done this. Kawaki and Mitsuki, they would have killed this guy. It would have been no discussion. It wouldn't have even been a second thought. We've seen this from Kawaki absolutely destroying Garo. We don't need to relive that. And we also seen this by Mitsuki literally trying to kill Iwabe in a sparring session. So obviously we understand that times aren't necessarily as difficult, and of course they have to reprogram the ninjas to actually be a little bit more friendly. But let's keep it all the way honest. If Kawaki would have actually killed this guy everything would have been a lot smoother, 100%. Now, real quick, getting past the action scenes, we definitely do have to bring up the point of Kawaki actually becoming a shinobi, but even before that, Kawaki understanding what it really means to be a shinobi. Now, he didn't necessarily completely understand that in this particular episode right here, but Shikadai played a very important part in this episode, essentially taking him to where a lot of the hidden leaf shinobis are actually buried, essentially telling Kawaki being a shinobi isn't necessarily about all roses and being peachy keen and everything like that. And of course, he's essentially telling Kawaki that he doesn't necessarily have to mourn the death of Matsuko alone. Shikadai, along with Chocho, are doing the exact same thing. They themselves can share the pain that they're experiencing together. And of course, this right here just bleeds over to his interaction with Naruto and him essentially asking Naruto, what does it mean to be a shinobi? Naruto did an absolutely amazing thing in this episode. He didn't tell Kawaki what it means to be a shinobi. He essentially tells Kawaki that's something that he has to answer for himself. This right here has also been a tradition, essentially letting the younger generation come to their own conclusion. Another thing that was very interesting about this episode is that Naruto didn't actually assign Kawaki to an actual group or to an actual team of shinobis. He actually assigned Kawaki to himself when himself actually does go on getting ranked missions. Now let's keep it 100. Naruto isn't going on any getting ranked missions anytime soon. I personally believe that Kawaki could potentially be like an assistant or an aide to Naruto and essentially doing his biddings, potentially getting him some coffee. But honestly, I personally feel like Naruto is essentially going to be going on higher ranked missions, higher than Genin, and of course having Kawaki tag along. I could honestly see Naruto going to actually, dispel some disputes, potentially going out on C rank missions, potentially some actual escort missions to see exactly what's going on, sending backup. And of course, Kawaki is always going to be on standby, so Kawaki can actually go be the backup that Naruto does send. I mean, things like this right here is absolutely amazing for Kawaki. The only slight thing about that is that Kawaki isn't necessarily for everybody. His personality isn't necessarily going to mix with everybody. His personality didn't mix with Chocho, but it mixed with Shikadai. His personality wouldn't mix with Denki, but it will mix with Iwabe. It wouldn't mix with Metal Lee, but it will mix with Tsubaki. Now, I don't necessarily think that this right here is going to be a permanent situation for Kawaki. I do think that eventually he's probably going to actually get a team, and if not that, probably when he becomes a Chunin, he'd probably be a team leader to a couple of new Genins or something like that. That right there would be absolutely fine, but him being an actual ninja was definitely needed. Happy to see Kawaki actually become a Genin. This episode as a whole, in my personal opinion, was a well-rounded episode. It was very entertaining in regards to action. It was very entertaining when it came to character development. Kawaki, of course, becoming a ninja, and of course him trying to figure out exactly what it means to be a shinobi, and a lot of other things. I mean, this episode right here was just a very good one. But let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.